All right. Thank you so much, everyone, joining in today to the Legal Lens, the podcast series run by Legit Quest. First of all, let me welcome all our audience, probably who were there with us in episode one and two, and probably, any new joiners continuing this journey from episode three onwards. Thank you so much for taking out time, guys. And to be very honest, today it's one big leap that we are taking by calling. Priyanka, who's the legal director with Pfizer. I'll come to you, Priyanka, very soon, because our audience would definitely like to know our guest much detail. But before that, what I do, Priyanka, is obviously this is the first time initiative taken by Legit Quest. So a lot of new people joins us from every episode onward. So I would take a sort of a detour and would like to tell them more about Legit Quest and what this the Legal Lens podcast series is all about, because we have catch up a particular theme onto that. So guys, Legit Quest might be a new term for you. So we are a legal tech venture. We are in the business since 2017 onwards, and we are a B2B data driven platform. And on the top of it, we have made suites of legal tech products, I would say. One which is a legal research product, which is a SaaS product for all the legal fraternity to consume the legal data that we have. And today, Priyanka, just for your information, we possess the largest litigation database of the country, which is India. So that's where we started progressing, and we went on to developing another product which is into case management tool. So this case management tool you must be knowing very well. So for all in-house lawyers and even law firm partners, we have this solution, one platform where they can manage all their clients or all their company specific cases, get a real time notification, hearings, and even it's a collaborative tool, like I say, because that's where everyone needs to collaborate and work on a particular matter. So uh, that has been our journey. And recently, Priyanka, just to tell you, we just got into launching a product called Libel, which is into legal due diligence. So we provide litigation check reports through APIs, through manual reports for high stake transactions in case of M&As and IPOs, as well as to quick BGV check for onboarding vendors, employees, those kind of a checks also, like an IPS solution. So that's what we are into. And we realized, Priyanka, like we've been into this space, and it's a very niche category. I think you'll understand, like legal tech is a very niche category. So we thought, why not to become a thought leader there, and shout out a bit more about what sort of problems these spaces specifically have, and what sort of solutions are available. So that's where we came forward and tried visualizing a podcast series like the Legal Lens, that we are here today for. And it's not just about we talking about what the industries are facing as a problem on wanting as a solution. We always want some external industry people, thought leaders in their own space, like you today from a pharmaceutical industry, coming and sharing the real market insights and sharing it to our audience is much valuable. So that's how we started with this kind of a thought process. And then here we are. And today, definitely, I'll give you a big thanks, because taking out time and speaking to our audience really takes a lot. So Priyanka, thank you so much, first of all. And to the audience, guys, just to tell you about Priyanka. So she's an expert, a legal expert, I would say, and that too in the field of pharmaceutical industry, because her majority of the career has been into the pharmaceutical industry. So she's a legal director as of now with the Pfizer Limited India, and she carries a 16 years of experience in this industry. She has a background in leading legal teams and is an expert in employment, labor law, corporate legal affair. Her experience actually includes, managing complex litigation, intellectual property protection, mergers and acquisition, and contract negotiation. And on the top of it, I was very, surprised to see like so many achievements. And then one was like, she got nominated for 2024 General Counsel Award for Pfizer Incorporation for developing an AI legal podcast series. Great. I mean, so she has developed AI legal podcast series for herself or for the organization. So looking forward to this one for sure. And she was also recognized as the third best Pfizer global lawyer. And more to that, she's also a contributor to Pfizer diversity and equity and an AI in law communities, and is a frequent speaker across many conferences talking about legal risk mitigation. So, Priyanka, very honestly, very impressed with the kind of background that you carry, with the kind of achievements that you have earned till date. And I'm pretty sure that, our audience gonna get a great insight today by hearing you out. So without, I've taken too much of time and people are wanting to hear you out. So maybe let's start the beginning. But before the start, do you have anything to add? I mean, just an opening remark. I don't know. Anything to add here?
No, first of all, thank you so much for the invite. And I would say that once this connection was made, I was quite curious to even know more about Legit Quest, and I think it works both ways. So the honor is also mine for having given this platform.
All right. Thank you so much, Priyanka. Thank you so much. So let's deep dive into the discussion. And I want to start like, from putting a question that will, help the audience to know where you're coming from. So why don't you just tell the audience more about your background, the kind of experiences that you have been carrying, the journey you have, taken up so far, and what made you, pursue the legal career, specifically in pharmaceutical industry. We want to know, like, how does it all started?
Right. So let me start with an anecdote, and that goes back in time. Like all students in school, I was very confused with regard to which way that I would want my career to shape up. And my parents, being the typical Indian parents, engineering and medical were their first choices. And of course, for some reason, my parents thought I was one of those intelligent kids who could be, influenced to take up engineering and medicine. But I happened to come across a book called as, not the book of law, but a novel by John Grisham called as Street Lawyer. And I was so impressed by Street Lawyer that when I was in my fifth grade, I had decided that I wanted to be a street lawyer and
Wow.
I wanted to take on the corporate world the way that the book went on. So that's how the thought of becoming a lawyer came into my mind. And why pharma? Because I have seen the impact of medicines in almost everyone in my family. Now, I know that in the pharmaceutical industry, though being highly regulated, is an industry where people are very passionate about what they do because there is a meaning to the purpose for which they go ahead and innovate a drug, they manufacture the drug, the way they promote these drugs. And some of the drugs that are taken are so much of a life saving drug that it adds a new meaning to a person's life. So it's not just the corporate, but also the, I would say that patients being first, that motto had helped me in choosing pharma industry. And I also get the icing, along with the cake of doing my passion of being a lawyer in a pharma company. So that's what it is in short.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. When it comes to, the primary industry across, I think pharma is the one which is, I mean, impacting the healthcare space big time. And without its contribution, I think no economy can even think of running. And especially, like you mentioned, like, the regulation, I think, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest challenge I think this industry faces a lot, because other industry might have a little less regulation. Maybe fintech is these days, getting more regulation, but pharma has always been into a space where, regulation has been. So kudos to you, to your journey, Priyanka. So moving forward, because so now people know that you are from this industry. So what we have seen is, our young lawyers also, they have seen, like, there are differences in working in different industries. Like, probably working in a fintech, working in a some food and beverage industry vis-a-vis pharma industry might be different. So our audience would definitely like to know how the legal teams operate, in pharma industry in specific, and what kind of a primary roles which comes at hand for the team to handle in this space. So more into deep diving into, more, work in this space would really, help the audience to know more.
So, an in house counsel is very different to your typical law firm lawyers that you have, because an in
Mhm.
house counsel become the business partners of an organization. So, as business partners in an organization, you get embedded to the core objective of the organization. So, it is no longer that,
Hmm.
the client of ours is a corporate. No, you start living, breathing the very dream of your corporation, and you become a very important stakeholder for the businesses to reach out to whenever they have any kind of initiative to be rolled out in this. So, just like how you mentioned, pharma being a very and highly regulated industry, it becomes very essential for us lawyers to not just understand the aspect with regard to law, but also draw the line as to how important it is for the business to reach out to the consumers, in this case, the patients. So, though we are highly regulated, how we keep to within the parameters of law, but at the same time ensure that the messaging relating to a drug goes out, is the key as to how we balance
Hmm.
in house vis-a-vis the very qualification of law that we have.
Right, right, right. So more into it, like, the in-house team, obviously there are many pending cases of, those corporates, some regulation compliances. So what all, like, something more on that aspect, certain, you might be onboarding, some external stakeholders, like how the things go there. Maybe, we can, listen to that as well, maybe.
Yeah. So, Dr. Himanshu, I'm sure that the very reason before you started off Legit Quest, the thought in your mind would have been, how would I help any corporate with regard to
Mhm.
the legal side of matters, right? And you came up with this brilliant ideas on having platforms pertaining to litigation. And kudos to you for such a great achievement on the litigation front, wherein you have the digital platform for the litigation. So, very similar to what you just stated, as an in house counsel, you are fighting the battle for the corporation in which you are employed. And here, what you do is you act as an external counsel. So, that's something that you do. In addition to it, like you just mentioned, your contracts, right? From the time of conceptualizing, entering into a contract till your contract gets signed, and even after your contract gets signed, you ensure that there is a continuous compliance. So, as you just mentioned, when we think of having any kind of third party vendors on board, there are three kind of assessments which are done. First is the very preliminary assessment, which you call as the due diligence, which is done in order to ensure that are they the right fit for the organization, right? Because you want to cover your risk when you are having a vendor onboarded as your partner. So that's number one. Second is, of course, the fact that you have to enter into an agreement. So there are negotiations that you do with your partner to have an agreement in place. And you know that all these remedies that, in case things go wrong, stems out of your contract. So your contract becomes a
Hmm.
very important instrument of your safeguarding. Third is, even after you enter into an agreement, you need to do a continuous monitoring, because at the end of the day, there is a reputation attached to any organization when you associate yourself with a vendor. So there is a continuous monitoring which is done even after an agreement is entered into. And that
Hmm.
way, the partnership and collaboration goes a long way. So that's how, as lawyers, we actually help in the in house position to start a collaboration with a third party vendor.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah. I think rightly mentioned, from managing the litigation to even contract and maintaining the terms of the contract, and due diligence for the vendors is what you talked about. So so when there is a the company, like, your specific company gets into a contract with any external stakeholder or a vendor. So, like, what are the critical aspects your legal team really looks into? Like, some criteria, some, before entering into a contract, before, certain things coming out from the due diligence. What are those critical aspects that the, legal teams really take into consideration, look into in specific?
Yeah. So, just as how I mentioned it, right? Before you even think of collaborating, you do a due diligence. And in the due diligence, the important aspect that we look into is how is our vendor partner complying with the various regulations? And to what extent, if they are deviating, are we okay to even go ahead with this deviation or accept that deviation? So that's where your number one consideration kicks in. Because when we are doing this due diligence, like you said, if there are any factors or parameters which are found to be not agreeable with our standards, then the thought that comes into our mind is keeping in mind the compliance, the statutory regulations, and the reputational risk that are involved. Is it even worth going ahead with these vendor partners? So that becomes
Right.
very, very key consideration. And a company like the one where I am working, Pfizer, where innovation plays a very important role, in addition to all these risks, which are your regulatory, your compliance, your reputation, there's also one critical risk is your intellectual property risk. So
Right.
that is equally important and a very key parameters for us to actually identify whether a partner is the right fit to comply and adhere to these parameters which are required by us compulsorily.
Got it, got it, got it. No, no, absolutely bang on. So maybe just carrying forward the same set of conversation. So like you mentioned, like you've been into legal risk mitigation also. So just coming a thought there. So what is there any kind of legal risk also involved when you deal with these vendors, outside stakeholders? Because you do the due diligence. So there are a variety of diligence we've been talking about. So is there any legal vetting also being done? And if it is there, like how you guys strategize or tackle this legal risk mitigation while having a contract with outsiders.
So I'll give you an example, and it has nothing to do with, my regular work. And I think all of us as lawyers, if, or even if you are non-lawyers, it will help you to gain one legal tip. So we are all aware that as in-house counsels, when you are working full-time, you do not get to practice in the court of law because our bar licenses are suspended. And that's exactly what is required under the BCI Code of Conduct. Now, what we have realized is that when we engage with our senior partners, law firm partners especially, so if you are working in an MNC, one of the most critical requirement, as we know, is the FCPA, what we call as the anti-bribery requirement. So that is something that falls under the legal risk because whatever happens, or in case of any incident by an affiliate company of a US company, the parent company is the one which is held liable, irrespective of wherever or whichever affiliate commits any kind of wrongdoing. So that makes it very critical for any US company to ensure that their affiliates comply with the FCPA rules. Or it was until Trump actually suspended the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the FCPA. But having said that, so in our in-house legal counsel, as an in-house legal counsel, one of the key requirements is to ensure that in order to mitigate these legal risks relating to anti-bribery, we get a commitment from our partners, vendors, and sometimes even law firms to ensure that they comply with these rules. Uh, so this is something that we have come across where lawyers who practice generally don't sign any such thing. I'll tell you why. Because anyways, under the Bar Council of India, the Code of Conduct, lawyers are required to ensure that they provide their services with highest level of integrity and quality. So it's already there that as lawyers, we uphold the integrity of our profession and do not indulge in any wrongdoing whatsoever. So there we have seen, and there are many times, despite the FCPA, we have taken waivers from our parent organization to ensure that we engage with our legal counsel, but within the very code of conduct of the Bar Council of India. So this is like
Mm.
a pro tip for anyone to understand that in India, lawyers are required to act with the highest integrity
Yeah.
under the Bar Council Code of Conduct.
Right. So this is what, the practical, industry specific information probably the audience would be looking out for. And there you go. Great insight. So carrying forward the discussion, Priyanka, there is so much of, AI, ML and legal tech, in play these days. How your legal teams, are they like, using those kind of updated technology, or are they welcoming, those, AI, ML in play? So how is it happening at your organization?
Yeah, I think AI is no longer a luxury. There was a time when people could afford to ignore AI and think of it as a non-essential resource, good to have resource. No longer so,
Yeah,
because now AI and digital have become something which needs to be a part of any organization. And just as any organization, we have realized that resources are something which have completely, I would say, reduced in number. So it makes it more important for us to ensure that monotonous work, tasks that we keep doing day in and day out and which can be automated, is
right,
required to be automated. You cannot be just going ahead and searching for agreements, documents, litigation, hours together on an Excel sheet and thinking it's fine. It's no longer fine. In order to be the sharpest, in order to be the bestest in the field that you practice, you have to embrace AI. And I don't think there is anything to fear about AI. In fact, it is a tool that really would help and support in any kind of field, whether you want to do it in house, whether you want to practice in as a lawyer. AI would
right.
play a very big deal in whichever angle or whichever stream that you would want to take forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Just confirming, Priyanka, can you hear me? I mean, is my voice audible
I
to
can.
you? All
Yes.
right, cool. Because I just replaced one of the earpods. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think you are absolutely right. We have also seen, things changing drastically with the, coming of the new updated technologies. People like, even, coming from the legal fraternity, law firms and in-house teams, they are, sort of welcoming this kind of a move. And that's where we being on the other side have seen that, so just wanting to sort of validate and know more as to like how in-house teams are thinking on that front. So just wanting to know, like like you mentioned, like AI is like a kind of a need rather than luxury. So is your in-house legal team using such kind of a AI based tools, or any specific like contract you mentioned, litigation you mentioned, any diligence you mentioned, any specific space you are using some sort of any product, would really help audience to know, like that's that option happening.
Yeah. So, Dr. Himanshu, like I just mentioned, it is no longer a
Yeah,
luxury. It has
yeah,
become a part of our lives. And we do use a lot of AI tools day in and day out, because of the fact that you can no longer afford to compromise on efficiency, and they help in a lot of efficiency. With regard to the tools, what is available, I would leave it to you to talk a little bit more about Legit Quest and what it has to offer, so that even whoever is watching can actually understand more on what this digital tech is about.
No, definitely. So we come from the same thought process, I would say, because when we guys initiated, building Legit Quest, it was very clear that we need to, sort of, you know, improve the productivity, of the legal practitioner. That's where that was the, thought process. That's the vision we started working on, to be very honest. If in case, you being a, whether, a litigation lawyer or a in-house counsel, you have your specific set of work roles, right? You have some workflows that you need to take care of, where with the invent of technology we can make the things efficient. That was the whole thought process, and that's where we, like I said, like our legal research product, I just give you one statement, like it helps the user reduces down the legal research time by 33%. So if in case you're spending hours and hours in doing the legal research on our platform, the value proposition was very clear. Let's give a platform where they can reduce down their time, and time is money, we all know. We are able to handle many more cases more efficiently is what we wanted, legal practitioners to work on. And just taking another example, like you just mentioned, like so AI based sort of case management tool. Obviously it's like talking about keeping the in-house teams updated or law firms updated about the hearings and everything. But again, the productivity that I mentioned, if you provide a brilliant collaborative tool, because in any matter, I mean, there are so many stakeholders involved, some external law firm or a lawyer who's representing in-house team. There are associates and all those things, some partners or, GCs and everybody. So there are many stakeholders involved, and how to collaborate them, how to, get the best out of the whole team is because we have seen like, uh, so many things, there's miscommunication that can happen. There's a lot of time gaps which impacts the efficiency in the case and all those things. So one platform, where all the documents are there, all the calendar invites are synced together, team really working together is what. So with the technology, the idea was very clear when we started off that let's focus on the productivity, and that's where like all these usual legal processes are becoming more and more efficient with AI technology, generative AI, and all those things. So, like generative AI is what we've been also leveraging. So we have come up with a legal assistant, who can really give you in just one quick question through audio chat as well. It can throw you the most relevant cases that you might be looking out for in seconds. So that's where the things have moved, and it's all about people adopting that kind of a technology. Though we have seen a great jump, I'll tell you, Priyanka, in 2025, we've seen a great drastic jump, people adopting it, people tying up, and all those things. So, yeah, maybe I just took a leeway of, taking your question and, telling the audience more about how things are happening. So yeah, maybe on legal due diligence, yeah, I mean, again, that's not much onto this thing, but yeah, it's all about the database as well. When you have the database, you can really take out the real insights through technology again. Because the database that we are talking about is really huge, Priyanka. Because if I talk about right now on our platform, it is 50 million case records we are talking about, and it's going to be 400 million soon. So such a huge data, unorganized, unstructured litigation data, and fetching the insights out of it really takes a lot, really takes the most updated technology to work for that insight, and that's what we are bringing in. And that's where we can provide litigation checks also for proper due diligence. So yeah, that's where the things are happening. So thanks for giving me this question so that audience gets to know more how things are moving in particular. So we are just into
Yeah.
these spaces, I'm sure. Contract, analysis. There are tools in contract management as well. Though we are not into it, a lot of great work is happening through technology where a proper analysis of the contract and some pre-notification that might come before getting into a letting the user know the terms and condition expiring or something like that. So a lot of work is happening there too. So yeah, 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 yeah. So maybe let's
Yeah.
move to the next maybe the last question of today that I have for you. So so now we have spoken a lot maybe about this AI technology. So what are your thoughts? Like, uh, how this legal tech would really shape the future of law? I mean, I'm keeping it very general, maybe just because, obviously you're coming from the in-house counsel side, but you are in this industry. You are you are a legal expert, have seen the world, in past so many years. So how do you think, what are your thought process where this technology would take this, legal industry, the future of law, uh, where it gonna be?
Yeah.
So, any thoughts there?
Actually, Dr. Himanshu, you just mentioned with these, while you were describing these products, you actually touched upon every aspect, nuance of an in house lawyer and how efficiency and time counts, right? You
Yeah,
just rightly mentioned that time is money. And with the data, the analytics that you have provided, with that itself, you can understand how critical and important AI will become. It's already there. And very shortly, it will become something of a necessity for almost all lawyers to adopt. So I never think that lawyers can be replaced by AI, but on the other
yeah,
hand, I feel the lawyers can be amply supported by AI. So there's nothing to fear about of lawyers getting replaced, because no one can replace lawyers with our emotional quotient, our adaptability quotient, etc. But at the
yeah.
same time, if we adopt AI and digital, we are going to make our lives much, much more efficient in the space that we are working.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you rightly touched that, the debate that has been happening since years now, that AI would replace, humans and all those things. I think I second your opinion. Very honestly, I always tell, like, in artificial intelligence, there's a word called artificial. It means it's made up, right? It's not the actual thing that we are
Yes.
looking out for. An actual thing is the human. You can't replace human mind, there are service industries like legal, obviously how a legal practitioner thinks, how he thinks towards winning the case, how a educator in education space really takes up the student query. You cannot replicate the same thing, though you can assist, though you can really help them support. So absolutely bang on. That is what I believe in, and that is what probably now many people, because of all these conversation happening, and today also we touched upon all this important aspect. I think people now realize the importance of human involving himself or herself with the technology rather than just dependent on being technology. So very rightly said, Priyanka. So thank you so much. I think with this, I can really uh,
Thank you.
take leverage to, sort of close down the session. And it was really, really insightful. Couple of anecdotes and couple of inside information that you provided from the pharma industry standpoint, that would definitely help our audience, will really guide the young audience who might be, looking out for, sort of joining this industry as a counsel or, any which ways. So they might have got a great insight from this session. So thank you so much, Priyanka. So we can very
Thank
well,
you again, Dr.
wrap this
Himanshu.
session. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So any last few words, or we are okay shutting down the this episode with a good vibe?
Yeah,
All right,
wishing you
cool.
the best and thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. So we'll be wrapping up, and we look forward to the episode for soon. Thank you, guys.